It's time to talk hockey with the Utah Mammoth and NHL insider on KSLSports.com, Cole Bagley on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Give our friends Trajan Wealth a call today, your local financial fiduciary, 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. And it's time to bring in our Utah Mammoth insider, our hockey insider for KSL Sports. And he's brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. Cole Bagley joins us right now live on the program. Cole, how are you celebrating?
I mean, it's just been an electric 24 hours, just drinking up all the Canadian tears and enjoying
Aren't they delicious?
Oh, they taste so good, especially after a 46-year drought for the United States to take care of business. I mean, it's all in good fun, but, you can't help but feel just incredibly patriotic watching the boys take care of business in a game that, they were underdogs. Just based on the fact that Canada had three of the best players in the world, the three best players in the world, I should say, on their side of the puck. And somehow the United States was able to weather the storm and, get the job done and bring home the gold.
Yeah, man, that's just American spirit is what that was. That was them feeling it, and of course you saw that in the celebration as well. I just think it was awesome. What do you take away from Canada's reaction? Right, I've heard a lot of different things from last night and this morning on how Canada felt about it. Of course, the coach was extremely classy about it, but there's a lot of players who just felt like you saw who's the better team out there today. And I was just like, hey. Winning's winning. This is what sucks. That was what I was thinking about it, all this morning was just like, now y'all know what it's like to go through the playoffs in NFL, right? Instead of like NBA where you get 7-game series and this and that. No, it's if you don't get it done today, you don't get it done, right? And so what do you take away from kind of all of the Canadians' reactions?
Yeah, I think the important thing is to look at everything that they said. There were some quotes out there that were kind of shortened and taken out of context. And of course, they're going to be disappointed. I mean, they were the favorites. That was the game that they should have won. That was the tournament that they should have, dominated all the way right to the end. But, when I kind of gathered, all the full quotes from all the players, they were confident in their game. And, they should be. I mean, they outshot the United States by almost double. I think the shots were 42-26 or 27, something along those lines. So, to get that much offense and to lose, I mean, that's kind of what they all said was, look, we played really well in every facet except we didn't score goals. That's what Sidney Crosby, the captain who was unable to go yesterday, said. That's what, that's the full quote from Nathan MacKinnon essentially was, you be the judge of who was the better team today, but, we didn't score goals and, they ended up winning. So, yeah, I think for Canada, it was just a game that the hockey gods wanted the Americans to win. The number of open net shots that they missed, the 2 breakaways from Celebrini and McDavid. I mean, those guys take those breakaways 10 times. They're probably scoring 7 or 8 out of 10 times. But Hellebuyck was, just a generational performance by Hellebuyck between the pipes of the United States and a little bit of luck, and the hockey gods shining down. And it was a day for the United States to win that game.
You met so many heroes in that game and in that moment, and you mentioned one of them, Connor Hellebuyck, who honestly has been under fire for not stepping up in big moments and big games. Yeah. We know about the Jets' struggles in the postseason and, obviously what happened in Four Nations a year ago. What did we learn about him in this game, and just how incredible was he in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that he has collapsed a lot of times in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, he has been, the best goalie in the NHL 3 times. He was the MVP of the league last year. And, a lot of seasons, his save percentage is, somewhere between, 0.91 and 0.92 or and above. Like, he is just unbelievable. But then, for whatever reason, he gets to the playoffs and a lot of times he kind of shrinks. He doesn't, step up to the lights. But I think with the Olympics, it was a different opportunity. It was one game, right? It wasn't a 7-game series. It wasn't going back and forth between home and on the road against, a whole bunch of different teams and what have you. It was one game, and he, from the moment that he woke up that morning, he said that every step he took felt like the right step. And, that was just his performance yesterday was as possessed as a goaltender can be. Mm-hmm. I mean, just tracking the puck incredibly well, knowing exactly where the passes are going, anticipating where shots are going to come from, knowing, what moves the players are going to try to pull, how they're going to try to beat you. I mean, obviously, he was beaten once, but the fact that he kept out 41 of the 42, to be brutally honest, that's a game that the Americans probably didn't deserve to win, but because of Connor Hellebuyck, they were able to. I mean, that's how good he was. I think if any other goaltender is in net, it's probably a game the U.S. loses 4 or 5-1. That's how dominant Canada was offensively. But Hellebuyck, he had other plans, and he is undoubtedly the MVP of that game.
Yeah, that's why no game is won before it's played, right? It's absolutely awesome. And you're looking at it, and Jack Hughes is getting a lot of glory, but you listen to you break it down, man. And if you watch that game, it's Hellebuyck had most of the highlights. Yeah. Those saves were absolutely incredible. There's one where it's like, one-on-one, it's guaranteed, it's going in, this and that, and he does a reach around behind, and it skates off of his his stick and goes out, and an absolutely awesome team play right there. But like, if you're breaking it down, right, like from all the hockey that you've seen over the years, and you're watching this matchup from the very start to the end, the energy from, again, you said 42 shots to 28. Right, 42 to 28 was the difference in shots on goal. And so, from you, what was your impressions from that first period onto the overtime? Like breaking that down from the energy and how U.S. from Hellebuyck saves to like bringing energy to that team's belief through that whole deal. What was your assessment of how that game played out?
Yeah, I thought both teams started strong, but the United States definitely had the better first period. I mean, they came out buzzing. They came out with high energy. I think the play that really there's two plays I think that embody what that first period was like for the United States. Right off the puck draw, the two brothers Matthew and Brady Tkachuk just go and pulverize one of the Canadians right along the board together. I mean, I can't imagine playing with your brother in a gold medal game and just
Mighty Duck absolutely.
Style. Yeah, I mean, just lighting up the opponent right off the draw, and then of course, Boldy's goal was just unbelievable individual talent and skill to chip two defensemen, one of which is considered the best defenseman in the world, and Cale Makar, to knock the puck down out of the air and then go short side on Binnington to give the United States a 1-0 lead. Yeah, I'd say the U.S. dominated that first period, as much as they could have, and then. Canada kind of just woke up. They got into their game. They got into their sets. The McDavid celebrating McKinnon line, which may be the most dangerous line to ever play the game. Mm-hmm. They were rolling, but they couldn't finish their chances. But they kept going and they kept going and they kept going. And finally, Canada got one in the second. They tied it up. And then the third period, I think the Americans were just playing for their lives. I mean, they were playing to survive because Canada had discovered the very top, the very best of their game. I mean, their offensive zone possessions were just relentless and suffocating. And every single time, as I was watching that as an American, like I was holding my breath going, I don't know if they're going to win this game or not. But Hellebuyck stood tall. Charlie McAvoy had an unbelievable save himself. Hellebuyck stopped an initial shot but fell down to the ice. McAvoy jumped behind him right on the goal line, and a shot hit McAvoy up high. And if he doesn't make that save, it's 2-1 Canada. And who knows if the United States could tie it up. And then, once they got to overtime, it was anybody's game. 3-on-3 is it's a different beast. It's a game that prioritizes possession, obviously, but it's also about odd man rushes. And that's what we saw in the overtime. I mean, if you look at that play that Jack Hughes eventually scored on, the United States was breaking out of their zone, and if Jack Hughes doesn't poke the puck free near the blue line, Canada has a 2-on-0 going towards Connor Hellebuyck with, I believe, McDavid and McKinnon or McDavid and McCarr, which that's the most dangerous duo or trio you could face in the world. But Jack Hughes pokes it free. He gets in on the forecheck. He's going to the net. Zach Werenski wins the puck up off the wing. He plays it across to Quinn Hughes, and he called game, right? Like he put it low and beat Bennington, and that it is what it is. And Canada, I know that they were a little bit upset about the fact that an Olympic game is decided in 3-on-3 overtime, because it is a different game. I mean, if that game is 5-on-5, Canada probably ends up winning, but it's not like the Olympics pulled a fast one on them and
right,
were like,
this has been the rules.
Yeah, I mean, they knew that that's what it was going to be, and Canada was the beneficiary of a 3-on-3 overtime victory against Czechia. So, that's kind of how the game played out. And like you said before, I mean, this is why the games are not decided before, and this is why they always play them. And I don't think it's a game where if they played 10 times, Canada wins 9, but I do think it's a game that if they played it 10 times, Canada probably wins 6.
So many great moments. Obviously the game-winning goal. Jack Hughes and his brother hugging each other with Jack's teeth missing and blood all over his face. The Gaudreau tribute. There's just so many moments in that game that were awesome that we're going to remember for a long, long time. I don't know if it's on the scale of Miracle on Ice, but I think that hockey fans in the United States are going to talk about this game for many, many years. And I want to know what this does for USA Hockey moving forward, because you've created a real rivalry here where it feels like the USA and Canada are on the same level. How do they maintain that and keep that? What's the next step for USA Hockey to maintain that level of hockey against Canada moving forward? Yeah,
I mean, so many of this generation of NHL players were inspired by Miracle. I mean, obviously, many of them were not born and weren't born for a long while afterwards, but that Miracle movie that came out in the early 2000s, most of these guys had said, look, I watched that growing up. I mean, I talked to Nate Schmidt yesterday. He's a guy that's played, world championships and other tournaments for the United States. And he said that he was a guy that was inspired from that movie. And, it made him, really interested in the game and wanting to be the very best. And I think that that's what this is going to do. I mean, this will spark another movement of hockey in the United States, because not only did the men win, but the women did too. Like, this is the first time in history that the United States won gold in both men's and women's hockey at the Olympics. And so all those young kids, those boys and those girls that can now look up to these heroes. I mean, that's what Mike Eruzione, the captain of the 1980 Miracle team, that's what he said yesterday was, look, what we did, that's done. That's so far in the past. But, now that they've been able to accomplish this and win this game, they said, my grandkids need their hockey heroes. And today, those hockey heroes were born. Like you said, I mean, so many moments. How many kids are going to watch Connor Hellebuck and go, I want to be a goaltender like Hellebuck? How many kids are going to watch Jack Hughes? I mean, he was just lethal through the whole tournament and go, I want to be like Jack Hughes. I mean, how many young American kids are going to look at that photo of Jack afterwards with the flag draped over his back? He's missing teeth. He's got blood in his mouth, and he's got his fist up because he just accomplished what so many people thought was impossible. So, I mean, from here it only gets better. I mean, the fact that USA Hockey has come so far over these last 10 years, they've continued to grow in terms of, youth players in all these programs, and the Learn to Play program mandate by the National Hockey League. And my 5-year-old son, he starts playing Learn to Play this week. He's 5 years old, and his hero is Clayton Keller. I put his gear on the other day, and he said, Dad, can you tuck my jersey in like Keller? And I said, I sure can, buddy. So, it's just these guys are heroes, and they're immortalized as heroes, and it's going to inspire the next generation. And the fact that they can already go toe-to-toe with Canada, I mean, it's only up from here.
Yeah, man, I absolutely loved it. You talk about the photo. I mean, you pull up ESPN and you're looking at Jack Hughes and Alyssa Liu's 2019 letters, and that photo of Jack Hughes' fist up with the American flag is just it's just going to be iconic. As you said, it's going to stand in USA Olympic lore for forever, and absolutely awesome. But the physicality is what I took away from that, as it was absolutely awesome, and I love it. It's what I just think that every play was just intense, especially going down the stretch and in that 3-on-3 in overtime. But I mean, I want to know, like, what does this do for in the transition, there was a lot of energy put into, the Olympics. How does that translate to guys going back to the NHL season and finishing strong with their teams?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? I think luckily for a team like the Mammoth, they had 4 Olympians. There were no injuries. Karel Vejmelka didn't even touch Olympic ice, so he's rested. He's fresh. He got 2 full weeks off to, rest and rehabilitate. But he also got the Olympic experience. I was able to chat with him yesterday, and you would think that he might be upset, and maybe internally he is, but on the outside he said he was very grateful for the opportunity to go over there. He had a lot of fun, and he enjoyed it. So, he's rested and ready to go. Olli Maatta was able to win bronze for Team Finland, and he didn't play a ton of minutes either. He was able to stay healthy. JJ Peterka had a good tournament for Germany. He's a young guy. He's 23 years old, so I think he played about to par. And then, of course, Keller, he won gold. I mean, that's a guy that's on top of the world. He's part of this historic run by the United States. I mean, I can't imagine that he is like, this is the greatest accomplishment of his career. And he didn't play a ton. I think he only totaled about 15 minutes on the ice overall, but he dressed for more games than not. He was good in the final preliminary game. He got some minutes against Sweden. He had 1 shift yesterday, and now he can take that experience and the things that he learned from all those guys around him and what it takes to win. I mean, that's what the Mammoth have tried to do over these last couple of years, even dating back to Arizona, is they're trying to gather championship experience. Doesn't matter if it's a Stanley Cup, doesn't matter if it's World Championships, doesn't matter if it's the Olympics. They want guys who know what it takes to win at the highest level. And so, for Keller to do that is huge. And I think, the Mammoth are fortunate to be a team that, they send Olympians, but, they're coming back. They're healthy. For the most part, they're well rested, and they can jump right in. Whereas opposed to a team like the Colorado Avalanche or the Minnesota Wild and, other really good teams, those guys had 4 and 5 of their best players who just played all the way through to the very end. So it'll be interesting to see for sure, but I think the Mammoth are going to be in a good spot.
Well, it was a great Olympics for the sport of hockey. It was even better for USA Hockey, and now we look forward to the rest of the NHL season. Next time we have you on, Cole, we'll have a NHL game or 2 or 3 to break down. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to see what the Mammoth do for this final stretch to try to get into that Stanley Cup playoff race. Cole, thanks so much. Appreciate it, and look forward to Mammoth games coming up soon and the NHL schedule continuing.
Yes, sir. Go USA, baby.
There you go. Cole Bagley,
Never get tired
Utah
of saying
Mammoth
that.
Insider.